Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lili Nashmas Imi Merosi Rusbas Mordechai. Today's shiur is sponsored by Parnas HaChodesh. Shmuly Hecht in honor of David Zlatnik, F200. Akiva Sulkowitz, F94. Sholom Rand, F202. Oh, he's in the house. Reb Sholom is though. I hope he brought some meat. Shmuly Davidowitz, beat 202, and the official 8-minute Daf Yomi committee in honor of Rabbi Stefansky and my upcoming 90th day of doing the Daf, learning Torah consistently, especially while doing pre-med. Has been a real challenge that I've been trying to improve on, and I'm really grateful to Rabbi Eli on the opportunity to be part of Mercaz Daf Yomi. Tzeizchem Lshulem to the chief shul shusher. Who's that by us?
What? We in our shul?
Yeah, the chief shul shusher. No, this is not for you, but in our shul. I'm asking Stam a theoretical. What? Who?
You're asking the shusher who the shusher is?
I'm asking the shusher who the shusher is. I just want to know if you realize that you're the chief shul shusher. Yehuda ben Chaim Tzvi Peretz, MY1. Please join the MDY Daf share. You will love it. And this is somebody that doesn't watch the Daf, so how is he going to see it? Okay, whatever, I'll show him. You will love it. It will keep us connected from afar, from anonymous. Shkoyach. Rabbi said this was an emotional one, not so much for me. There's a whole long story behind this. I got part of it here. Thank you, Rabbi Eli, for bringing me to this moment in my life. It might be hard for some to believe, but in my 54 years on this planet, I've never put up a sukkah, schach. I remember in Hebrew school helping put up some decorations. I've been planning this since I started learning sukkah with you, but nothing prepared me for the flood of emotions that came over me today, placing the schach on top of the first sukkah I built at my own home. I have trouble connecting most of the times when I daven and also many in the shul, but today as I placed it in place, I felt the power of thousands of years of my people all over the world, really felt part of something so much bigger. I'm going to be using this opportunity to invite some of my secular Jewish friends over during the week to experience this. And who knows, I might even get some to join the Daf. I want to thank you and the rest of the guys from Zoom who've been so supportive, especially Mark Ashkenazi. Also, no elephants were harmed in building of this sukkah. Jeff Rosenberg, Shkoyach, Jeff. I don't know. Mark, where does he live, Mark? I see Mark clapping on Zoom. Mark, where does he live? Tell Avi where he lives. Oh, he's over there in California? He's one of David Agal's boys. Shmuly Hecht. I recently joined shiur thanks to my friend Meir Farkovich, who posts the sheets. I actually learned the Daf most days of Chavrusa, but found shiur to be most amazing. Started listening every day. Just wanted to point out that part of what pulls me to the shiur is your funny comment stories throughout the shiur. Obviously, the shiur itself clarifies some points as a side note. It clarifies some of the Gemara, but the main thing is there's some stories and some geschmack stuff going on. I may have missed the first time. I even enjoy your running through the sponsors and commentary. It truly makes me feel a part of something even though we've never met. I don't know if this was your objective, but it all pulls me to learn more, so thank you so much. Yes, it was my objective. Next time I'm in Eretz Yisrael, I definitely plan on trying to come to live shiur at least once. Shmuly Hecht, Yishkoyach. Saw this yeshivish man walking exactly like this. I stopped and asked him what he was doing. Response? Watching Rabbi Eli's Daf. Here's the yeshivish man. Listen, there's a guy in Cedar, so he thinks this is yeshivish. He saw this yeshivish man. I mean, maybe he's yeshivish and I don't know. It could be, yeah. He's not from Panovich. I don't know what yeshiva. Cedar is yeshiva. There's yeshiva for Akwa yeshivish. Okay, whatever. I don't know. I used to down yeshivish for Akwa, so I don't know. The White Sox gave it away. Oh, here's a good, interesting one. Dear Belly, as well as making newspapers, this is from Yossi Sounders. I'm also a freelance chazan. This year, davening Singers Hill Shul in Birmingham, UK. As you can see, my Gemara now accompanies me onto the beach together with my machzor. Rabbi Jacob's pictured in red already dafs with someone else, but give him a shout out anyways. I'd love an MDY as he would love, Yossi Sanders would love MDY Gemara. Please see also my write-up on MDY London Seam last week's paper, and finally just for you, blah, 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 Yossi Sanders, Manchester, Jewish Weekly. Here's Yossi Sounders. Now, check this out. A while ago, I was trying to open up a special kollel. I wanted to do something called kollel chazar sashatz. I noticed that in a lot of shuls, there are people, especially the chashiv people, they like to learn during chazar sashatz, which is against halacha. It says in halacha, you're not allowed to learn during chazar sashatz. They learn. So I was going to open up a special kollel called kollel chazar sashatz. We pay special those who are over on a mefurish halacha, and we pay them. But the problem was I couldn't find a Rosh Kollel. Rabbi Eli, here's the Rosh Kollel. He's the Chazan, and he has his art scroll on the beam. As he's he's boring everybody else, and he's learning the whole daf. This is the Rosh Kollel that I was looking for all the years. Here he is, Rabbi Yossi Sounders, Rosh Kollel of Chazaras Hashatz Kollel. All right. Moving on to the more serious stuff. Today's daf Chof. And I want to say this, Rabbi Eli, this is where people fall off the bandwagon, right here. Sukkos. It's very difficult to learn. And not everybody has a big party in the sukkah like we're going to have this beautiful breakfast every morning. And by the way, if you're part of the daf, you are invited. If you've been learning with us, you're invited. There's those who are going to start learning with us on Sukkot. They're not invited. And your children and wives are not invited. If you do the daf, you're invited. Doesn't matter where you live and how you watch, you're invited. So for all those, I just need to say, I'm getting phone calls. Can I pay 200 shekel to come? No! Yesterday, Simon Jacobs delivered 2 cases of Castel wine. You're talking about thousands of shekel worth of wine. Each bottle is over 200 shekel. 2 cases. So we're going to have wine in the morning, just the way it's meant to be, on Yantif. And it's kviyas because every year we do it at this time. It's the Yantif kviyas, just like Motzei Shabbos, we have at 9:30, it's not the 7:15. Oh, I got to read your email. You're right. I forgot to print it out. Yishkoyach, that's a very good one, and I forgot to print it out. What? We'll have to do one of the nights. The New Yorkers complain that they're going to be lost. Anyways, what happens is people fall off the bandwagon. They miss a daf here, miss a daf there. They get discouraged. They get depressed. It's very depressing. You want to finish the whole Masechta. The idea is don't get depressed. It's all right. You missed 1 or 2 daf, even 7 daf. Just go to where we are holding whatever it is. Daf Chav Zayin, Amatzah Yantiv, Chav Ches, whatever it is. Just jump on, pretend it never happened, and later on you might be able to catch up. If you don't, it's not in the world. But don't leave Daf Yomi because you messed up on Yantif. All right. So now we are going into. Where is shiur tomorrow night? Should it be just right here? Every day in my sukkah in the morning, but tomorrow night here?
No, you should feed us.
I'm looking for more. By the way, Mayor Planko is here in the back, is sponsoring a full breakfast one day. Benzi Novak is spelling a full breakfast, and the rest I am sponsoring. All right. So, tomorrow night shiur is right here in the Beis Medrash. Typical time, 9:30. There are those who ask every single Motzei Shabbos, what time is shiur? The same as it was last week, the same as it's going to be next week. 9:30. What time is shiur? In the morning? 7:15. Okay. And on Sukkot, it's 10:30. We have a 10:30. It's Kavua Sukkot for the last 3-4 years. It's a beautiful atmosphere. It's unbelievable. Okay. What? No. In my Sukkah at 10:30. And on a regular day. Right. Fine. No, I'm saying Sukkot is a yontiv of achdos, of camaraderie. Everybody comes into the sukkah. All types of people we have: Hasidim and Litvags, Misnagdim and anti-Misnagdim and Lubavitchers, and we have a token chassid even, and we rent a Yerushalmi guy. It's unbelievable. We have everybody there. Yes. Yes, you're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos and Yontif for Daf Yomi. Ask Yeshua. He drives to different places to recruit. It's a whole matzah with him. No, I don't think you can do that. Now they're going to cut that out and say, I said, okay, whatever. Says the Gemara. We're holding 4 lines from the bottom at the words Shezeh Goyrem. It's the last words of the sugya, and all it means is that sukkos, Chaga sukkos is Goyrem. The thing that we care about is sukkos. In other words, if a person brings or says he's going to bring in a dava 1 minute before sukkos, he must bring in that sukkos. He doesn't have, according to this man Amar, 3 Yomim Tovim. Why am I reading it again? Because it's Chag HaSukkos Goyrem. According to this man Amar, it's sukkos that is the most important out of everything. And now let's get on to the regular program. Says the Gemara. It says in the Mishnah, if a person brings a carbon and he stipulates that it should be a carbon, it's a taida, he crossed the ocean, he came from America to Eretz Yisrael, and he wants to say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for saving his life, for bringing him here, or he had a disease, or he's in jail, you bring a carbon taida. You cannot use that carbon, although it's a carbon taida, and a chagiga is a shlamim, so I would say, okay, let's use it for this, but since on Yontev, you're mechuyev to bring this red carbon here, this shalmi chagiga, this shalmi nedava, a voluntary shlamim, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you must bring a shalmi chagiga as you come to the Beis Hamikdash. So you cannot be yaitza with your taida. Pshita, says the Gemara, that's pashat. There's a chiyuv to bring a taida. How do I know it's a chiyuv? Because it says in the pasuk, "V'chagoysim oisoi chag lashem." Chagiga, chag. That equals shalmi chagiga. You must bring a shalmi chagiga. That says in the Torah. It has to be readily available to bring as a carbon. You can't just piggyback ride, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and say, I'm going to be yaitz my taida and be yaitz my chagiga. No, you have a special chiyuv. You have to bring a pure, non-carbon related animal. Says the Gemara, let's see the parish. I'm telling you a chiddush here. Maybe I would think that if a person says specifically, I want to bring a taida, I don't have to. I crossed the ocean. It doesn't say in the Torah I have to bring it, but it's a halacha and shulchan aruch. It's not a pasuk. So I want to bring my taida, but also be yaitz my chagi. He says it mefurish as he's donating it. I want to bring a taida, but I also at the same time want to be yaitz my carbon chagiga. Or now, what happens when he does that? So as soon as the words come out of his mouth, taida, I want to bring a taida. That's it. It's a taida. Then he continues to speak and he says, oh, and I also want to add something to it, chagiga. No good. That's what the Gemara is going to tell us. Same thing. Hareini nazir. I'm accepting by myself to be a nazir. I'm not going to drink wine. I'm going to grow my hair. I'm going to be careful with tumah. Va'agaleach mimois ma'aser sheni. And I'm going to use what's ma'aser sheni, the 10% of your produce that you give to yourself. But you have a lot of produce, so you transfer into cash. And instead of buying steaks in Yerushalayim, you want to buy karbanos. Those are the karbanos I have to bring as a nazir. Mahu. So Shlakish asks Rabbi Eli, what could Amalei Nadur ve'ena yaitza Nazir ve'ena megaleach. Once you say the words, I'm bringing a taida, that's it. The nether is chal. Once you say I'm going to be a nazir, you're a nazir. Now you cannot add to it and say, oh, but I want to piggyback on the ma'aser sheni. I want to No, it has to be a pure carbon. Says the Gemara. So, it's a personal, very personal story. I never really said the story. I was about 19, 20 years old. I was dancing at a chasana, like a mashugana. And a guy comes over to me. Should I talk to you? Yeah, whole shmooze. He starts telling me about his daughter. And then he says, listen, whoever marries my daughter, I give him $6 million. $6 million. Now, $6 million in those days is probably, $20, $30 million today. The house that we bought in Kensington, there was $120,000. Today it's, $1.5 million, whatever. It's at least 3-4 times, right? 27 years ago. So I go home all excited, tell my father, this guy is going to give me his number, the whole thing. So my father told me, he said, listen, if you could take the money and bring it home and put the wife in the bank, that's a very good idea. But since the money's in the bank and the wife is home, it doesn't make sense. So, makes sense. My father. L'maisa tachlis geret is probably the worst advice my father ever gave me.
She's still available because I have a son.
She's probably 50 years old now. And whatever the joke you said yesterday, that's what she was probably also. Why else would the guy offer so much more? Okay, anyway. Ahu Gaver, the Amar Lahu. There's a guy dying on his deathbed. And he said to a guy, Hovele Arba Mea Zuzay. Right? The Gemara always says Arba Mea, it's a guzma, it's a huge number. Give this guy 400 zuz from my bank account, Leploini. Vilinsa Barti. He has to marry my daughter. Oh, started back then already. Amar Papa. Arba Mea Shokil Lamaisa Tachlis. If I would have married that girl, there would be no MDY. What? I would be somewhere in the Chveis Nishvu. The Zohar Baruch Hu Sav of the world. Nice. He said, or we would have a much bigger building. Amar Papa. Shver gave me much more than that, but he didn't make it a t'nai. He saw that was a great guy, and he's like, yeah, okay. Amar Papa, Arba Mea Shakil. What happens is the guy gets his 400 zuz. If he feels like marrying her, great, not. Because you basically, it's Amir L'Gavoy Masir L'Hedyot. But this guy's a shchimera, so you have to be. Everything he says goes because you don't want him to go crazy. He said, give this guy 400. Stop, give him 400. The next condition, but he doesn't say but. He says, and he should marry my daughter. Well, stop. If you want to marry. Great. Time though, Stammer reminded me of this other great story that I like to say all the time, but there was some Rebbe that did not like his son-in-law. He realized right after the chassan, this guy's he messed up in the shidduch, big time. So he told his son-in-law, listen, it was a beautiful chasana video we just saw, beautiful, beautiful. But I noticed that under the chuppah, when the Tzaddik Kedushin said the bracha, he was mechaven. So at the end of the day, the Kedushin is not chal. So what should I do, Rebbe? What you should do is give a get, and we'll just say the brachas again. So the guy gave a get. They said, stop. That part is good. Now we have to think about the brachas. So you do half, and then you think about the other half later. First you take the 400 in cash, and then if you want to marry her, great. If not, not. But if we reversed it, he said first, on condition he marries my daughter. And if he marries my daughter, this 400 zuz, inasav shakil, v'ilay nasav loy shakil. There's a dion in Rishonim, Taisves, Rush, different. What if, in our case, he says, I want to bring a chagiga, but also I want to bring a chagiga, and I want to bring a taida. Is it like the reverse in this case where marry 400, that does work, you have to marry the 400, so maybe you could do chagiga, taida, maybe you have to bring both. You could be yoitz on both. Merema didn't say it was a question that Reb Shlokish asked Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan told him, Palgina Dibura, so to speak, you can only be yoitz one. That's how you say it. We don't say it as a given. It was a question that Rabbi Shlokish asked Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan answered him. Okay, so it says in the pasuk in the Torah, V'samach yodoi al roish ha'oila. This is the halacha of smicha. You have to lean on the head of the animal. What kind of oila we're talking about? So yesterday, so we ingrain this in our head. Yesterday we spoke about these oilas, there's 4 oilas. There's oilas riyah, that on Yontif, everybody coming to Yerushalayim today, in those days, would bring a carbon oilas riyah. And tomorrow, there's going to be a Talmud in the Beis HaMikdash, which is also an oilah, and there's a carbon musa for Sukkos. And the pasuk is talking about oilas nedava. Voluntary, I want to give a Kadosh Baruch Hu a full animal, I don't want to eat any steaks, I want it all to go on the Mizbeach. That oilas nedava, the pasuk says, b'samach. You must do smicha, lean all your weight on the head. It doesn't say it by any of the other oilas. Okay, the same thing, interestingly enough, was that? That's fine. It says v'samach yodei al roish karbanim, but look what it says in the beginning of the pasuk. Vim zevach shlamim karbanai shlamim v'samach. Again, voluntary shlamim. So here are the 3 shlamim that we spoke about yesterday. Shalmei chagiga is a chiyuv to bring. Shalmei simcha is if you run out of chagiga meat. Ein simcha ela bebasar, right? Shalom. Basar. So you bring another carbon, but it's part of the chiyuv. Shami nedava, I want to bring in nedava. On that also the Torah says v'samach. So we have 2 samachs, both by nedava and not by chayava. So how do we know that by chayva you have to do smicha, or maybe you don't? Tani Tana Kamei the Rabbi Yitzchak Barabba Vayakir v'sa'oila v'yaseo kamishpat. Kamishpat oilas nedava. This pasuk is by miluim. It's a chayva to bring a miluim. The Torah says that you have to bring these karbanos to the Beis HaMikdash. That's not a voluntary oila. And the oila, that chiyuv oila, is kamishpat, like the laws that we have. What does kamishpat mean? So we must say, like the laws we have by, the halachas that we have by oilas nedava, that we know that oilas nedava do smicha. Limid oilas l'chayva should do smicha. Okay. This must be, he says, this must go according to Bishamai. And we're going to prove that it goes according to Bishamai. Then the Gemara says, no, it doesn't go according to Bishamai. It goes according to everybody. What's his big proof that it goes only according to Bishamai? Bishamai don't learn Shalmei Chayv and Shalmei Nedava. Oh, as the Gemara is going to explain, as Rashi explains, the Gemara is going to explain, you cannot learn out a Nedava from a Chayva. A Nedava comes every single day in the Beis HaMikdash almost. Besides Shabbosim, let's say, but 6 out of 7 days, there's always a carbon shlamim. Shalmei Chayva comes on Yantiv, special occasions, so you cannot learn, say, Beis Shammai one from the other. They're very different. Okay, a svara to be machalik. Now, the Beis Hillel, we saw in our Mishnah, right? We just learned the Mishnah on Daf Yutes. That what? That according to Beis Hillel, you do smicha. According to Beis Shammai, you don't do smicha. The Beis Hillel, kiv in the gar mishalmi chayva mishalmi nedava. Why in the world do they say that you have to do smicha on a yontif like Sukkos? Because they must be learning out a shlamim that you have to bring on Sukkos from a shlamim that you just bring voluntarily. And that we saw the pasuk, the voluntary shlamim. It says mefurish in the pasuk. V'samach yadai. First it talks about shlamim, then it says v'samach yadai. Okay. They must be learning it like that. And the Gemara and the Maskana is going to say, no, that's not how they learned it. You made a mistake. If you compare, they still compare a Shalmei Nedava to Shalmei Chayva, Shalmei Chayva to Shalmei Nedava, and therefore they can learn that they're equal, and they both require smicha. But Beis Shammai say, Chayva is different than Nedava, one is more frequent than the other, so you cannot learn one from the other. So according to Beis Shammai, there's no smicha on Sukkos, when you bring that chiyuv of shlamim, your Shalmei Chagiga, and according to Beis Hillel, there is. Ask the Gemara, the Gemara Nedava. Why do Beis Shammai, or whatever this Bryce is? I think this Bryce is Beis Shammai. You know why? Because according to Beis Hillel, there's no need to bring a word kemishpat. I just learn out one oila from the other oila, just like I learn one shlamim chayva from nedava, so I learn oilas chayva from oilas nedava, and that we saw in the first pasuk that there's a mefurish pasuk by oila v'samach yadai al roish oila. So I take the chayva and I learn it from here. Why does it say that I learn out from the word kemishpat? Obviously, it doesn't go according to Beis Hillel; it goes according to Beis Shammai. Bishami saying you need a special pasuk. Says Gemara, no. Umimai devisil shalmei choyva meshalmei nedava gamri dilma moilas choyva gamri moilas choyva gufa bayikra. Okay, I made a little chart here. Fingerprinted it. You're saying that we go from the black to the green. I'm learning shalmei choyva from shalmei nedava. No, maybe he learned shalmei chagiga, a shlamim from Ayla. And how do I learn Ayla? From Kamishpat. In other words, even Beis Hillel agree that I need the word Kamishpat. So this Beitzah that says Kamishpat, that I learn Aylas Chayva, that doesn't say in the pasuk anywhere that Ayla Chayva you have to lean on it, the head. The Beitzah says I learn from the word Kamishpat. Maybe it goes even according to Beis Hillel, not Bishamai. Maybe even Beis Hillel agree that there's no way you can learn regular shlamim. That's a chayva from shlamim that are nedava. Why? Because one is very frequent, one is not frequent. And the chayva you learn from Kamishpat. Says Gemara, what are you telling me? You can't go this way. You can't learn shlamim that are nedava from shlamim that are chayva. Why? One is frequent, one is not. So then you can't go downwards. You cannot learn shlamim from a ayla. Ayla is a carbon you put completely on the mizbeach, and a shlamim you get to eat half of it or most of it. Says Gemara, Elo, whatever the word is, asya mibinaya. Oh, so I'm going to save you all the pain and aggravation. Very, very pashut. If you ask me that shlamim is matzoi, it's very, very common, I'm going to tell you, no. Asim Binaya means I'm going to learn from the combination of shlamim and ayla. So no matter where you ask me a question from, I have an answer. What are you going to tell me? Shlamim is different. You cannot learn out a shlamim chayva from nedava because one is very frequent. Well, guess what? Ayla's chayva isn't, and you bring. How do you know from Kamishpat? You're going to tell me ayla is burnt completely on the mizbeach, and that's why it's different. Shalmei nedava are not burnt completely, and you do smicha. The bottom line is, I'm just telling you the whole Rashi Bal Peh. Bottom line is tzad hashava. Both ayla and shlamim have two things in common. First of all, you have to bring wine with it, nesachim, kastel. Second of all, you have to do smicha. So memela, anything that you bring wine and you'd have to do smicha. Anything. So I'm learning a combination of shlamim and ayla to teach us the halachas of chayva by ayla, chayva by shlamim. Everything requires smicha. Says Gemara, so what are you telling me? Based on what we said in the Mishnah, Shami say, shlamim, that you bring on sukkahs, let's say, that's a chayv, you must bring obligatory, loy boy smicha. You don't have to lean on it with all your might. How could that be? Beishamai agree that you have to do smicha. So why are you telling me Beishamai say that you don't? Rabbi Yosi says, Beishamai agree to it. So then what is the machlokes? I'll take it for the smicha shchita. Do I have to do smicha immediately prior to the shchita? That's the whole machlokes. According to Bisham, you have to do smicha, but you don't have to do it immediately before the shchita. So please do it erev yantif. Do it 24 hours prior. Lean on it, prepare it, get it ready. There's no reason to do it on yantif because you're using an animal on yantif. You're not supposed to use an animal. Do it the day before. You need to do it immediately before. Fine. Says the Gemara, okay, so what are you telling me? That you thought that Beishamai say you don't have to do smicha. And you bring me a Rabbi Yosi that says Beishamai hold you do have to do smicha. Guess what? There's somebody else that holds like you also. You don't have to do smicha. So don't bring me a right from Rabbi Yosi. Huda Amar Kaitana, the time Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Yehuda, another Rabbi Yosi. But this time it's a different Rabbi Yosi, the son of Rabbi Yehuda. I'll take the smicha shchita shetzarech. Everybody agrees that you have to do smicha immediately prior to the shchita. You can't do it erev yantif. In Shalmi Chayva, do you do smicha or not? In our Mishnah, Shlamim that you bring on Sukkos, that is the machlokes, just like we were learning the whole time. Fine. Rabbi Beitzah, an incredible story. Really incredible story that we can learn a lot and bring it into our lives. We're talking about Hillel HaZaken. Hillel HaZaken was the Nasi of Klal Yisrael, the greatest man alive. Hillel HaZaken. Whatever he said, went. Listen to this story. Ma'aseh Hillel HaZaken, Shehevi Yoylasi Lazara, he himself brings a little shepsela, a male sheep. Why? Because when you bring an oyla, it must be a male. So he brings the male sheep. And he's about to perform smicha on it, to lean on it with all his might. So of course, the Talmidim show up, the Kanaim from the other side, from Shammai's Talmidim, and they're there at the right time, the right place. They show up, and they start shepherding the Galadar. They also have their Gadol, Shammai, and Hill. And what are you doing? Rebbe told us, you don't do smicha. Mamish like in the Mishnah. But Hill holds, you do smicha. Says the Gemara, what do you think you're doing? What is this for? Omar lehem nekevehi. This is a female. I'm bringing shlamim. I'm not bringing oila. Kishkesh lohem biznava, and maybe I could do smicha on it. Kish lohem biznava, and he tried to expose. He's showing them, here, look, it's in a keva. They're not going to look, but he started grabbing the tail, so they should see that it's in a keva. If it wasn't in a keva, it was zachar. They didn't look. They believed him. Says Rashi, the bottom line. Shlamim hevisia meroiv and vasanusai shel Hillel. He was such an honor. He was the Galadar. He could have passed him on the spot. Rabbi Yashiv, you do smicha. What do you get out of here? No. Am vasanusai hoymishane mipnei hasholem. He didn't want to get into an argument. He didn't want them to fight with him. So he lied. He pasha lied. He said, I'm bringing a keva. I'm bringing shlam. 2 lies. Not 1. 2 lies. It's an argument against his own sheet entire. That's even worse. I think there's a tightness on him. I'm not sure, but you have to be. It's not to say that when it comes to halacha you should do it. Hillel was on a certain madrega. He did it. Fakert. He held a certain way. You don't say, this is right. Yeah. Maybe you do. But Lamaisi, he could have, at the end of the day, he could have just said, guys, you don't know what you're talking about. I pass on halachas. You do smicha. You know what? He didn't want to bother them. He wanted to just get out of there. So there's a big shiloh. The Sefer Hasidim says, you could only do it. Question. Let's say you don't want to lend somebody money. Are you allowed to tell them, I don't have money. Don't have money. You allowed to do that? So you shouldn't get mad at you. You can tell them, I don't trust you. Last time you didn't return the money to me. Or my neighbor told me you go around asking everybody for money, you never give it back. Or you can say, I'm sorry, I fell on hard times. Make up a maisa. You allowed to do that? So some say you're not allowed to. The Sefer Hasidim says a chiddush. You cannot do so because it's in the future. Fine, I see we're running late. Most argue on him. They bring rise from our Gemara that even it didn't happen yet, you're allowed to lie. Okay, fine. But you see this idea of lying of Bnei Shalom. You say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did it with Avram Avinu and Sarah. He says, Avram Avinu said he's old. He didn't say you're old. You lied to Bnei Shalom. Fine. That day, Bishamai were stronger than Bisilel. And because they were bigger and stronger, they decided to make the halacha like Bishamai, that you don't lean on an animal. There's one elderly Talmud of the other team. I don't know if you ever play basketball. You play basketball and the other team screams, foul, this is not a foul, not a foul. And if there's one guy from the other team that says, no, I saw it. Then that's it. Checkmate. There's no argument. The other guy says. The other Talmud from the other side says, no, Hillel is right. The Baba and Butashmai famous. A lot of stories about him. Chas, a lot. There's some famous one in Baba Basra. He knew the halacha was like it. Vishalach vehevi called soin kedib shulayim shibishulayim. He brought the best of the best animals. V'emidim ba'azara. and he put them, says Taisus, in Harabayas, not in the Azara. You can't bring chulin ba'azara. They weren't a carbon yet in the Azara. And he said, "Call me Shoroitz. I'm telling you guys here, take these animals, do smicha like Beitzah." And they decided I was like Beitzah. And nobody said a word. We just turned to the Amud Beis, sponsored by MDY Tehillim group for all those in Shidduchim, Refuas and Yeshuos. Please join us at Daf.com. Sponsored by Natan Khoshnood. Something like that. I got yelled at by Hill yesterday. For zechus, for my children, I Calev ben Devorah, in Israel, Yakov ben Devorah, that they should both do well in Eretz Yisrael, have a cheshik for Torah, mitzvahs and Yerushalayim.
Somebody who keeps Sholom always wins. That's what you say.
Khoshnood.
That's
Khoshnood.
the story.
Khoshnood.
Hillel was Mishnah and Sholom. In the end, he won the argument anyways.
Oh, yeah, very good point, Nachman. I like it a lot. He won the argument. Not only did he win the argument, the Gemara is trying to point out that he almost lost the argument. He should have lost the argument because there's more of them, and they were going to be kaver for life. Couldn't change it. But something happened, and there was a flip within, and they were able to make the halacha. Why? Because he wanted peace. He did something for the peace. I mean, if you think about it, it's an incredible story. The power he had, he was the most powerful man in Klal Yisrael. He could have in a second said, "You know what you're talking about, get out of here." But the guy would have been upset. And he said, "What do you mean, Rebbe?" No. Another story. Now there's a Talmud of Beitzah, not like his Rebbe. So then a Talmud of the other team comes along. What are you doing here with this micha? You should shut up. But he said it, and he took his words, and he yelled right back at him. He said, "Mazu smicha," and he said it almost rhymes. "Mazu shtika," like sha, none of your business. Says the Gemara, "Shitko ben Zifa v'alachloi." He walked away from him. He shut him up and walked away. Amar Abaye, you see from this a big halacha. Ilkach, hayturim rabbanon damalei lechavei lemilsa. If there's Natan Khoshnood, then another friend tells him something not nice. Shouldn't add to it. You see from here. You see in a lot of fights, you could win argument. Maybe I've never tried it, but usually what happens is two kids fighting at home. So one kid gives a patch to the other one. If the other one would just return the patch, it's very possible the fight would be over. But usually you add like 20%. This is instead of patch, you give him a punch. A punch, you give a kick. And before he chokes him out, the hospital holds up. But you could de-escalate it if all fights, you curse me, he said, shut up. But if you use a worse and this, that's how the fights are going. So you see from over here, Fursha Gemara. He used a not nice lashon. He said, Mazu smicha, just tell him Mazu shtika, and then the fight's over. But if he said, you amoretz, you bur, hani bavloi tip shoyninu, it starts, okay, fine. Tanya, try it at home, try it. I'm not going to try it, but you guys can try it. Tanya, I'm big into revenge. At least 10, 20%, 50% more. Amru, lohem beisila beishamai. So now, Beisil say, listen, you don't want to buy into my pshat. I have a pasuk, I'm showing you psukim that I'm right. But what about logic? Let's use logic here. Shabbos, you're not allowed to cook meat on Shabbos, you're not allowed to shecht an animal on Shabbos, but you're allowed to bring it on the Mizbeach, Tamid, Musaf on Shabbos. So on Yantiv, when you're mutavach, you're allowed to do Eichel Nefesh, you're allowed to do all these malachas to cook and everything. So certainly, you should be able to bring it to the Mizbeach. Moiridik is Svara. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to cook at home, but you're allowed to cook in the Beis HaMikdash. So on Yantiv, that you're allowed to cook at home, certainly you should be able to bring karbanas in the Beis HaMikdash. Very nice try. Don't you agree that you cannot bring a nedava, stama, a voluntary carbon? You're allowed to shecht an animal at home on Yantif, but you cannot bring a nedava on Yantif. You agree to that. Nobody's arguing. Soon we'll see that they do argue. But according to this, Beisil say you cannot bring a nedava in the Beis HaMikdash. Why not? You could shecht an animal at home on Yantif. You know why we hold, according to this pshat in the Gemara, you can't bring in a dava? Because you can bring it tomorrow. There's no need to bring it now on Yontif. When you're hungry at home, I need a shech today on Yontif. But on a dava, bring your animal in a week from now. Bring it 2 weeks. Wait until Yontif. Wait to Chalamayid. What are you doing it now on Yontif? Not true. It says, that's not. If you forgot to bring a chagiga on the first day of Yontif, so you could bring it the entire Yontif. There's no, it's not kavua. No, that's considered that it has a very, very specific time, very limited time. It's not. Why? If you forget to bring it, then you can never bring it again. So it's a big loss. It's a big loss. I want to bring it dafka on the first day. Because what happens, I go on a Chalamayid trip with my family, and I forget to do the daf. I forget to bring the carbon. I get messed up. Chalamayid messes everybody up, right? Everybody going on these trips. Besides Yosef Bilyak. He has to sit back home and do the videos. Don't be sad. It's a beautiful thing. I'm not either going anywhere. Me and you'll hang out together. So it says in the pasuk, lochem. Look, in the pasuk that says about oichel nefesh, we showed this pasuk earlier in the Masechta. Asher yochel oichel nefesh, lochem. I have a right from the Torah that you're wrong. You can only shecht for yourself, not for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, not true. So if we go back to this pasuk, the pasuk that we learned Shalmi Chagim from, you couldn't bring to Hashem. You said it, lochem. Here, machlokes. Lochem, bishamai, and bisil say, lashem, bisil, lochem, bishamai. That's what I said. Okay. Says Gemara. Anything. Lochem just is coming to say you cannot cook on Yontif for your cleaning lady. If you have a dog, I don't know anybody like that. But if you have a fashtunken dog, kuf lamed vez. I'm kidding because I have one. The new guy doesn't have that. I'm joking around. He's getting nervous. We have a dog. That's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah. I almost got it. Yeah. Wow. We have a kuf. My brother comes to Shabbos. He goes, "Where's the kuf lamed vez?" The whole Shabbos. P-I-G kuf lamed vez. You won't even say the name. Yeah. Kuf. Chav lamed vez. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how to spell. The Americanish guy. Kuf lamed vez. Calev. Fine. So you can't shecht on Yontif for your dog. You can't do what? Fine. Says Gemara. You're not going to believe this. Abishal, literally, if you look at it, it looks identical to what we just said. The same exact logic. Hold on, because we're late. Same logic, but it's very different. That what? And he says, here's a kira in the time of the Gemara. Stove in the time of the Gemara. So if it's closed, the top is completely closed. In other words, I'm not allowed to cook on it. On Shabbos. Nevertheless, your Rebbe's stove is open. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mizbeach is ready for business. You're allowed to bring a tamid. You're allowed to bring a musaf, right? So far, it's identical to before. If your stove, oven, top, is open and available on Yontif, and it is, you get mamish the same logic. What? You should have all the good meat, and your Rebbe's table is empty. There's no karbanas. Doesn't make any sense. What's the difference, though? Guess what? The Gemara over here doesn't bring Beis Shammai Svara. It doesn't say, but you admit that Nidarim and Nedavas are Asur. It doesn't say it here. It's end. This is the end of the story. Obviously, Abishol holds that according to Beis Hillel, you're allowed to bring Nidarim and Nedavas. That's why Beis Shammai never answered that. Before we were saying, Beis Shammai said, look, there's a Nedava that you agree that you cannot bring on Yontif. According to your logic, you should be able to bring it. But now it doesn't work. Because according to Beitzah, you could bring in a dava. So they don't have that argument. So then what's the difference between Abba Shalom and the Tanakh? They're saying the exact same svara. Same kavachaymer. Mar Sav and Nadarim is craven. Beyontiv. Abba Shalom holds that according to Beitzah, you could bring a neder, and that's why Bishamai never answered him. Omar Savar ain't craven beyontiv, that even Beitzah agree that the word Lashem means everything. Umar Savar, I'm sorry, that's before. Umar Savar ain't craven beyontiv. You cannot bring a nedava on yontiv according to Beitzah, and that's why Bishamai argued. Rabbi Eli once again, Matzah Yontiv at 9:30 here. Have a great Yontiv. We'll see you then.